Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll explore all of the ways you can style your React components to make your app look professional. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button to catch the rest of the videos in our React crash course, and let's jump into the video. Now, in this part, as you can see, we got our empty React projects right here, which we're running that on this side. Here we have simply the main.jsx and our app.jsx. And here we're going to create our first tag that we want to style. And here we have our test heading right here. The first way that we can style our tags, as you know from previous parts, is having our style here in our tag, and we can use our inline CSS right here. So for this, again, we need to pass another object, and here we can start styling our tag. For example, let's say at the first, we want to make the color to the red right here. And this is inline style, which is the most basic way that we can use. But as you can see, we have passed objects right here. And if we want to add another thing, for example, let's say we want to have this border. Let's say we want this to be 1 pixel solid black. And maybe we want to have some paddings here. We can have all of these items right here. But pay attention, this is not a good way to put our inline CSS because this type of styling is very hard to maintain. So instead of passing like this, we're going to create another object here in our app.jsx file. For example, let's say we want to name that this simple style, which is object, of course, and inside of that, we're going to pass these items that we have created right here. And now, instead of passing these much of properties and values, we simply pass the style object that we created right here. And as you can see, we got the same result as before. But let's say we don't have only one tag and we have multiple tags that we want to work with them. So let's actually make our fragment tag to this simple div with the class name of container. And inside of this, let's say we want this h1 to have this simple hello world, and then we can have this hr. Let's say we got some paragraph with 40 words inside of it. And at the last, let's say we want to have some button here too, which says simple click right here. Now, if we want to style our items by this kind of inline CSS, we can create multiple objects right here. For example, let's say here we got this style container for this item and this container that we have, and let's code some CSS here. So this is a CSS that we want for our container, and as you know, instead of this class name, we need to put this style right here and pass this style container right here. And you can see we got our results right here. And actually, let's create another one for our button too. So here we're going to create another variable with the name of, let's say again, style btn, and this is again another object, and the code inside of this is going to be these right here. And if we want to add that here too, we simply have this style. Then we're going to pass this style btn right here. And you can see we got our style with only inline CSS, which actually we can manage these items right here too. But another way of doing the same thing that we have done right here is by having these two objects inside of another object. What I mean is, let's say here we have one simple variable of styles, which this is object, of course, and inside of this we got bunch of properties. First one is going to be our container, of course, which is going to be object, and then we're going to have our button style right here. So we're going to have this button here too. And now we're going to pass these object values and properties that we have created here instead of these separate objects. And now if we get rid of these two items right here, at the first it doesn't work because we passed the object's name. But here you can see in our styles object, we got two properties of container and btn right here. And if we want to use them in our container, we're going to target our styles object first. Then inside of this, we're going to target this container property that we have. And we're going to do the same thing for our button too. So we're going to have this styles right here. And then inside of this, we're going to have this btn right here. And again, you can see we got these results right here. And pay attention, you can put this in another JavaScript file if you want. For example, in our source file, let's create another style.js, which here we got this object in this file. And at the last, we can have this export default, our styles. And here in our app.jsx, we can simply import that by our ES6 syntax, which is this import styles from style. And here you can see, again, we got our result right here. But if we want to have our CSS codes in another file, you know the basic way. We're going to create this simple style.css in our source folder. And here we can pass the class names and tags that we want to have. And by this, you know, in this syntax, we're going to use CSS syntax and not object syntax in JavaScript. So we target our class of container. Then here we got our paragraph to have some margin there, and our button here too. And the way we're going to use that is, of course, by importing that simply like this. We got our style.css right here. But pay attention here, because we use that one, we need to have these class names here too. So this is going to be our container, and actually we only need that. And here, if we get rid of this buttons style, you can see again we got these results based on the CSS file that we have. But another cool thing and cool feature that we can use is create our style just like this, as you can see. And by this feature, we can use this styles and CSS as same as this ones that we have created, which we simply going to import that and use our object, and inside of that, the property that we want. First, let's get rid of this style.js right here. So we delete this. And here in our style.css, what we need to do is we're going to rename this style.module.css. And after we created that, here we're going to import that as same as JavaScript file. So we're going to have our import, the name that we want that have. In this case, I'm going to put the name of styles here, and then we have the path, which is going to be this style.module.css. But you can see here, our button has worked right here, but our container is not going to work. And that is because of here, we got our container as class name. And because we don't have any class names right here, it's not going to work. And for using modules class name here, we're going to have this simple class name. And pay attention here in the class name, we're going to again have object. And inside of this object, we're going to use this styles that we created right here. And then inside of this, we're going to have our container. And by having this, you can see we got this result right here. And pay attention here, we got our container as class. If we want our button as class 2, if we make this class, you can see that doesn't work. And for that, we need to change this style to the class name so it matches with the class name. And this btn is going to be button here. But if we want to target tag itself, we don't need these items, and it's going to run automatically. And this is actually CSS modules and one of the best techniques that you can use in your project. And of course, as you know, you can have conditional based styling in your CSS2. For example, here, let's say we want to make this button red or green based on our variable of condition, which let's say at first we're going to make this true. And then here in the button, we're going to have our style here. And inside of this, we're going to have our ternary operator, which here we got our condition right here. Then if it's true, we want this object which has this background to be this simple green. And if it's false, we're going to have another object, which in this case is going to be this background of red. Now you can see because it's true, it's going to be this green. But if this going to be this false, it's going to be this red. Now you know how to style React components like a pro, and in the next video we're going to dive into hooks in React. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, catch that video, and if this video was helpful, hit that like button and comment anything that you have in your mind, and I'll answer them as soon as possible.